Hey everyone! Welcome back to our TOEFL preparation series. A few days ago, I got a message from one of my students. He successfully passed the TOEFL exam for his Dental Foreign Pharmacy Graduate Examination Committee certification, known as the FPGEC certification. It's what pharmacists educated outside of the US need in order to apply for a license. And he's been updating me on his progress ever since. I remember this student very well because his case surprised me. He took the TOEFL test 20 times before achieving his target score. Can you imagine that? 20 TOEFL attempts. Now, the problem was that he had to get a certain score in each section of the test. It was something like 22 in the reading section, 21 in the listening section, 26 in the speaking section, and 24 in the writing section. Not a very high score. But the big challenge for him was that he had to get all these scores in one attempt. He had been living in the US for quite some time at that point, so he had no problems with the reading and listening. But getting 26 plus and 24 plus on the speaking and writing in the same attempt was something he couldn't do. So he'd have these situations where he'd get all the scores he needed in, let's say, reading, listening, and writing, but score 25 instead of 26 in the speaking section. And then on another attempt, he would get the score he wanted on speaking, but he would lose a point or two on writing instead. As you can imagine, when we started working together, he was already so confused and depressed that he was about to give up. And imagine how happy he was when he finally got the score he needed. After that, he got his license, was hired by Walgreens, passed many other tests he needed, and is currently successfully working as a dentist in the US. I decided to share his story to show that if you are in a similar situation now and think you'll never pass TOEFL and achieve your dream, don't give up. I've seen many TOEFL students who had attempted to get their target score 4, 5, 10, or even 17 times. And while I think that you don't need to take the test that often to get the score you want if you know how to prepare well, the point is that these people didn't quit, and all of them got the scores they wanted and achieved their goals. So, in this video, I decided to discuss the most common reasons why people around the world take the TOEFL test, and also to share stories of my students, because these stories reflect the diverse aspirations and journeys of those who seek to improve their lives through language proficiency. Along the way, I'll share the tips you need to know to ace the test. So stay tuned to ensure you don't miss out. Without further ado, let's get started. One of the most popular reasons for taking the TOEFL is to study abroad. TOEFL scores are primarily used by universities as part of the admissions process. That is why the test is so academic. It's designed to test whether you can understand what's going on in lectures and seminars, complete written assignments, and know how campus and college life works in the US. This was also the reason why I took the test. I needed it for my college application, and for me, it was one of the easiest steps in the process. My language skills were already pretty solid, so I simply had to get familiar with the structure and practice the sections I found most challenging. I have a separate video about this on our channel, so if you're interested in my top 5 tips, feel free to check it out. Based on my experience taking the TOEFL, and teaching it for over 10 years, there are 2 key aspects to doing well on the test. First, your English level must be high. It's obvious that if your level is only intermediate, no tips or tricks will get you 100 plus on test day. However, the second and even more important thing is that you should also be a good test taker. This helped me a lot. I've taken so many tests in my life that I kind of have a gut feeling when it comes to any test. I know how to approach them, what traps to look out for, and how to stay calm under pressure. I often see students trying to approach the TOEFL in what I call a creative or a deep way, and believe me, it doesn't work. For example, one of my students had to pass the TOEFL to get into one of the top colleges in America. She was extremely smart and was able to understand almost every word on the test. But because she was so smart, she always overthought the questions in the reading and listening sections. She was looking for the hidden meaning that just wasn't there. A fun fact: the TOEFL test as difficult as it may seem, is actually quite superficial and straightforward. So, to tackle it effectively, you should approach it like a robot, strictly following the directions, but not going beyond them. If you get too emotional in the speaking section, you lose points. If you get carried away in the writing section, you lose points. If you look for hidden meaning in the reading and listening sections, you lose points. So my biggest tip is to approach the test in a robotic way. Well, as I said, I took the TOEFL for college admissions, and the test was the least of my worries. In fact, when it comes to the college application process, you have so much on your plate that it's difficult to keep it all in your head. You need to double check every single moment. I didn't have anyone to help me with my application, so it was quite stressful. You have to think about other tests like the SAT, GMAT, or GRE, depending on the degree and program you chose. Get the transcripts, letters of recommendation, a personal statement, and much more. You need to know what to write in the personal statement to impress the admissions committee and make them understand who you are and how you would contribute to the campus community. You should also make sure that your previous educational background qualifies you for admission. For example, another student of mine who took the TOEFL faced this kind of problem. He was French and applying to Harvard Extension School. He had been exchanging emails with them for about half a year, and as they told him, all his papers were good, and he just needed to take the TOEFL and GRE for his application to the ALM program. He was very confident and counted down the days to his acceptance. I remember we were in one of our TOEFL classes when he got an email from them saying, "Unfortunately, you're not eligible due to a discrepancy in the accreditation of your undergraduate degree." According to their feedback, his degree was reported as being from a nationally accredited institution, when it should have been from a regionally accredited institution. And he explained to me that there are no institutions in France that are specifically classified as regionally or nationally accredited. The schools he attended are well recognized in France, and many of his friends with similar credentials have successfully gained admission to top US universities. He tried to send them tons of emails about the situation, explaining that they never told him this in the first place, and that he lost about a year, but eventually Harvard Extension School got back to him and confirmed that he wasn't eligible for admission to their graduate programs. So he had to change his plans and apply to the University of Chicago. The reason I gave this example is that while in my case everything worked out fine and I got into my college of choice, it's not always like that. That's why it's so much better and easier to have help with your application. We provide such assistance at LinguaTOEFL and guide you through every step of the admission process. Our specialists will help you choose the right college and program and make sure you are eligible to apply. They will also help you prepare the most advantageous package of documents, including a personal statement, recommendation letters, a resume listing your accomplishments, and so on, and submit your applications to the colleges of your choice. I wish I'd had the same when I was applying, as it would have made my life so much easier and the process so much more enjoyable. So, if you're not sure you can get into a college yourself and want to improve your chances of getting in and getting funding, or if you don't have time to delve into the details of the admissions process and are looking for full support, click on the link below and get one step closer to achieving your dream. Another reason to take the test is for professional licensure. Some professions, such as in medicine and nursing, require foreign-trained professionals to demonstrate English proficiency through exams like the TOEFL as part of the licensing process. This is the case of the student I described at the beginning of this video. In fact, lately I've had many students who are dentists and want to prepare for the test to get a license in the US. Reason number 3, employment opportunities. Another reason to take the test is if you want to work in an English-speaking country. This will improve your job prospects, especially for positions that require strong English language skills. In fact, if you come from a non-English speaking country, the certificate is an extra boost to your resume. One of my students recently prepared for the test because she wanted to join an international company and needed to prove her English level. And there is an observation I'd like to share with you. She actually aced the test, scoring 115 out of 120 when she only needed to score 100 plus. Now, I usually estimate the score the student will get on the day of the test, and I've noticed something interesting. Those students who think they did well usually score exactly what I estimated in the last class. On the other hand, students who complain that the test was super difficult and think they failed it end up scoring much higher than expected. Have you encountered situations like this? Let me know in the comments. Let's move on. You also need the TOEFL test to apply for a work visa to work in the US. If you do this, you should have a sponsor, prepare your transcripts and relevant degree certificates, get a job letter from a company in the US, and submit either a TOEFL or IELTS test scores to demonstrate English language proficiency. I've had many students who were applying for work visas in the US while they were still employed at companies in their home countries, and I'm always amazed at how they manage to combine study and work. They always complete all their assignments on time, do lots of practice tests at home, and some even study extra to further expand their academic vocabulary. If you don't have much time, but still want to improve your language skills, you can practice your listening, spelling, and vocabulary on the Daily Dictation website and read articles on the Good News Network. The latter offers short and positive articles on a variety of topics. So start your day by reading just one article and writing down 3 to 5 new words. You will see a huge improvement. Reason 5 is immigration purposes. Certain immigration programs, particularly those for English-speaking countries, such as Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, may require TOEFL scores as part of the visa application process. For example, I've had several students take the TOEFL in order to immigrate to Canada. The country admits about 400,000 new permanent residents each year, and the higher your TOEFL score is, the better your chances of being approved. It's important to remember, however, that not all immigration programs accept the TOEFL. For example, the Federal Skilled Worker Program under Express Entry accepts IELTS, but not TOEFL. In fact, I've had a few IELTS students come to Canada through this program. However, provincial nominee programs, called PNPs, often accept TOEFL as a valid test. Your score can earn you between 6 and 24 Comprehensive Ranking System points, CRS points, which can be crucial for your PR application. For example, if your TOEFL score is between 94 and 101, you will receive 6 to 9 points. A TOEFL score between 102 and 109 can earn you 10 to 12 points, while a score over 110 will result in 13 to 24 points. So, a high TOEFL score could be the deciding factor in getting you an invitation to apply, ITA, for permanent residency. So it's not something you should ignore, especially when you're competing with thousands of applicants. TOEFL can also be useful for teaching. General English teachers who want to start teaching TOEFL often find it important to take the test themselves first. This way, you can not only master the format, structure, and content of the TOEFL exam, but also learn all the tips and tricks and make sure they really work. This will allow you to effectively guide your students through the preparation process. I love seeing other teachers in my TOEFL class, and especially during consultations, because it's a great opportunity to interact face-to-face with like-minded people and share some cool resources and techniques I've learned. By the way, when I did the CELTA course, which is an internationally recognized qualification for those who want to teach English as a second language, I had a choice at the beginning. I could either submit my TOEFL or IELTS certificates to prove my English proficiency, or I could have my English skills tested separately. As you can see, no matter what your goal is, as long as you need to prove your English proficiency, it will always come down to taking a language test. And TOEFL is one of the most popular and recognized tests. Also, after the changes in 2023, it has become much shorter and is now much more pleasant to take. If your TOEFL exam is approaching and you would like to have your speaking and writing skills evaluated, click on this link. Thanks for watching. Please let me know in the comments why you need to take the TOEFL. See you all very soon. Good luck.